Hello and welcome to episode 8 of FtLoC for the love of cars, where we discuss all the motoring news and behind the scenes stuff that we've been doing over the past couple of weeks. We are, as you might be able to tell, in the Eurotunnel because we're coming back from a shoot which we'll talk about in a moment. First of all, I'll introduce everyone that's in the car. So we've got Charlie, George, Andy. You want to?
Hi.
Excellent, good, well done. So we're all going to chip in at some point. One person that's not here is obviously Drew. It was always going to happen at some point that we weren't going to be around to be recording this together, and it's happened for this episode, so I'm afraid you're stuck with me leading the show. However, he has recorded a segment to go into it, so we will be hearing from him at some point. But first, I think we should deal with why we're on a Eurotunnel and where we've been, which is we've been shooting the Chiron yesterday, which is very exciting. So we went to Molsheim, where Bugatti's based, and we had a full day up in the hills on some fairly twisted roads through the forest with that, and it was, well, pretty extraordinary as you'd expect. You wait for the films to come out, but I just thought it was quite fun to see Charlie and George's first time you'd ever been in a Chiron.
Yeah, it's quite extraordinary. Really.
Yeah.
The speed just feels like it's never going to end. Like George said, when you put your foot down, it goes, and then you kind of put your foot down more, and then it just keeps going.
It's just like you think you accelerate to begin with, and you think, oh wow, this is really fast, and then you get to a certain speed, and then you must go even more, and it's just like another level.
I think it's the big difference between something like that and something like a Tesla, which is electric and obviously has an instant hit, but then seems to sort of probably it sustains it a bit, but it doesn't build any more than that. You've got everything instantly. You get the initial hit when the turbos come in, and there is a bit of lag, but then they come in and then it just keeps building and building and building, and it's like, oh, whoa, it gets more and more uncomfortable, and then you change gear and it gets, it's just crazy. Anyway, we had a pretty cool time. Andy Wallace was there for the whole day, which was really nice to see him again, and we did a bit of a walk around of the car as well with all the details, because there's lots of wonderfully geeky details that we weren't going to put into the main film, so we've done a separate film all about that. And yeah, just an amazing car to be around all day, really. Other things we've been away shooting, Charlie and I went across and shot the Fiesta ST, which the film is up now on the website, so go and have a look at that. Cracking little car up on the Col de Vence, which is one of my favourite roads. And in the evening, actually, they had a sort of bizarre sort of marquee set up with all sorts of interactive things, including a virtual reality headset, which you could sit on with a seat that moved around. And the car was on the Lommel test ground. It actually made me feel quite ill by the end of it. I think we've got some footage actually of Charlie sitting in the seat.
I got footage of you.
Oh, go down footage of me as well. And so we both look like idiots sitting in this seat, trying to sort of not throw up, basically. But yeah, it was a good car, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was.
Yeah, really good car. And actually, one thing I was going to, because I mentioned in the film that there were similarities between that and the Mk1 Focus RS, but I didn't actually sort of go into detail because, again, I thought everyone would get bored, so I can bore you now instead, because that's FtLoC and we can go into more detail. So here we go. I've got written all that here, everything, the Fiesta ST book and everything. So 2002 Mk1 Focus RS cost £19,995 when it was new. 2018 Fiesta ST, £18,995, but you need to spend £19,995 on the ST2 in order to get the diff, which which is not 850 quid. So, but yeah, it's not bad, I think. 212 brake horsepower versus 197 brake horsepower, so slightly less horsepower. 229 pounds-foot of torque for the Focus RS versus 214 pounds-foot. 5-speed in the Focus RS, and now 6-speed in the Fiesta. 143 miles an hour flat out in the Focus, 144 miles an hour flat out in the Fiesta. 5.9 seconds to 60, 6.5 to 62. Both had a Quaife LSD. 1278 kilos for the Focus, 1262 kilos for the Fiesta, so again very similar. 2 litre turbocharged obviously in the Focus, now we're down to a 1.53 cylinder. Probably the biggest difference, 27.9 mpg for that Focus, and now 47.1 mpg consumption for the Fiesta. And again, the CO2, 237 grams per kilometre for the Focus, 136 grams per kilometre for the Fiesta. So there we go, that's a rundown of the specs, which I thought was quite interesting, because it shows how things have moved on in all that time. We should probably tackle the news, really. So the news, 2 items really, got a lot of news. So the Ferrari SP38, which was revealed now. Ferrari does these special one-off cars for special customers really, who want something out of the ordinary, when a regular 488 or 812 Superfast won't do. They will do a special bodied car. Eric Clapton did one a few years ago, you might remember. And this has been done for a woman in Switzerland, who I think is called Deborah, from the things I've read on Instagram. And it's supposed to be an homage really to the Ferrari F40. And I can't really see it, I have to say. There are slats on the rear deck which I suppose sort of evoke it, but then they're body coloured, so that's kind of slightly different as well. There's a little sort of wing, but nothing like the F40's big rear wing. But regardless of that, it's, I think, a really good looking car. So yes, it's rather nice thing. Based on a 488 GTB, generally these things aren't mechanically very different underneath, if at all. But yeah, that was quite a cool thing to get unveiled. The other thing, I saw rumours the other day that Porsche is developing a Speedster which is likely to have GT car underpinnings, so GT3 underpinnings, which is pretty cool, because I think that'll be the first time that a car has come out of the GT department without a roof, apart from 918, Spider and Corolla GT, I suppose. And previous Speedsters were based on sort of Carrera RS, but this will be a GT car, so yeah, I'm not sure quite when we'll see that, but there are only sort of mock-ups and mules, and it's all a bit of speculation at the moment, but that would be quite a cool car. Anyway, motorsport next. Should we go straight to the BTC Heat correspondent in the back? George, did you watch some cars?
I watched a few cars go around a track. It was Thruxton this time.
Yeah.
I don't actually know where Thruxton is. Do you know?
Yes, I do. It's down the West Country.
Oh,
yeah.
We like the West Country.
We do like the West Country. We'll come back to the West Country in a second.
So yeah, Matt Neal won race 1,
mm-hmm.
and then I didn't watch any more, so that's about it.
Excellent. That is another cracking roundup from the BTCC from George, which I always enjoy George's roundups for that, so that's good. We had some F1, which was in Spain, Barcelona. Anyone else watch that? Lewis Hamilton won at a canter, really,
yeah.
And it wasn't a very interesting race, to be honest.
He had a lead of 20 seconds or so.
Yeah, he did. It was fairly dull. So he's now leading the championship.
Did Ferrari mess up again?
I think they did, yes. They're not doing very well on F1. World Rally Championship, which I did watch much more of, was in Portugal, and that was a particularly rough rally. Won by Thierry Neuville, good rally for Elfyn Evans, who came in second, and Timo Synnönen, who took his first WRC podium and came third. Mixed fortunes for Ford, because Ogier crashed out on the first day and failed to get any points in the power stage, so no points for him, which means Neuville is now leading the championship. He's overtaken Ogier. There were a couple of other big crashes. Hayden Paddon and Seb Marshall had a massive crash in the Hyundai, having been leading the rally as well. But thankfully they were both okay. And then Chris Meek, who was down in, I think, 7th at the time, again suffered with punctures on the first day, had an enormous crash with Paul Nagel, just turned into a 6th left slightly late, just fractionally late, got on the loose stuff and went off into the trees. And there are some extraordinary pictures of, I suppose the roll cage did its job, but it shows just how tough these cars are. Chris was flown to hospital, but both he and Paul were fine. But yeah, just horrifying crashes really. And one of the things I suppose it does highlight what an extreme sport the WRC is. The other thing I want to talk about is the Nurburgring 24 Hours, which was a fantastic race. I watched some of that. Again, you can watch that for free online on YouTube, which was brilliant. The usual Radio Le Mans doing the commentary, and it all came down to there was a stoppage because the weather was just too bad on the Sunday, So they stopped for a couple of hours, and then when they went out again, it was Porsche versus AMG, and on a streaming wet track, Adam Christodoulou was leading, chased by the Porsche. The other one had gone out earlier in the race, and it was just some of the most extraordinary driving. The Porsche did get past and went on to win the race, which is the first time Porsche's won there in quite some time actually, so they were very jubilant. And another shout out to my friend Jethro Bovingdon, who was I think he was the first car home that wasn't a GT3 car. I think they were 22nd in the end, in another Mercedes AMG racing with Bernd Schneider, which was a particularly impressive feat. They won their class by about 8 laps, I think, in the end, so well done to him. Yeah, go and check out the highlights of that race because it really is well worth watching. Talking of the Nurburgring, I think we should go across to Drew, who has hopefully recorded a piece from the Nurburgring and an Aston launch that he's been on. So, cut to Drew.
Yes, hello FtLoC fans. You do find me on location with the Aston Martin DB11 AMR in Nurburgring in Germany, right next to the ring. I can't actually tell you what I think of this car because the driving impressions are under embargo. I can tell you that it's got 630 horsepower and that's 0 to 60 3.4 seconds. But if you want to know what it's actually like to drive, you're just going to have to be subscribed to the channel and wait for the video to drop, I believe, on the 30th of May. We've had a hell of a journey out here actually. We had to get up on Monday morning at 3 a.m. And catch a very, very early flight to get here, but it did mean that we get some extra time with the car, which has been really nice. I've never been to the Nurburgring before, which feels like a bit of a dirty confession because in what we do, you should really be coming here all the time, but I've never driven the Nurburgring, I've never been to this area, and it's almost like kind of a brilliant car vibe. It's like Disneyland for people who like cars, and we've seen some incredible cars out on the road. The highlight of which is when we just drove down the road and found this Ferrari F40 just parked in a lay-by, abandoned, left to its own devices. And the owner came up a bit later. We had a really nice chat with him about his car and this car. And that's just what it's like here. Everyone is really into their cars. This is a brilliant car, but everyone is just equally turning heads at this as a million other things that are out on the road. It's been a great experience to just be hanging around here, and although the ring is closed today, we can't get on there with this car. I'm not entirely sure Aston Martin would thank me for taking it on there anyway, but to be this close and not go on the ring has been a bit frustrating, so I really want to come back this summer and make this year the first year I actually go out and do a proper lap. We'll figure out something to do with that later in the summer, no doubt. The car's been fun to be around. We've got some great footage of it. I can show you a couple of shots right here. But as I say, stay subscribed to the channel because we've got some really great stuff coming on, and I'm sure Henry will tell you later as well. Remember to hit that bell icon. It keeps you notified when we put a new film out.
It hasn't all been about Aston Martin for me. Last week I was invited out to Palmer Sport by the good people at Gear Club, a mobile racing game,
to show an experience that they're offering to people who get good at that game. If you get good at, say, Gran Turismo, you can progress onto the GT Academy and grow up to be like a real racing car driver. But this is like slightly more accessible level. If you're good at the mobile game, you can get offered a chance to go to Palmer Sport and have a Palmer Sport day. And as you can see from this footage, it's a fun day out. It's got aerial atoms, they've got their F3000 cars, which are awesome fun to drive. And if you get really, really good, the winner is even going to be taken out to drive a genuine Williams F1 car, which they'll be doing later this year.
For more information on all of this and to download the game, head over to gear.club.
But back to here, getting to drive around these roads has been brilliant. The landscape here is absolutely stunning, but it's this bit up here that is the most tantalizing. Having never been to the ring, but watching millions and millions of ring videos on YouTube all the time and playing it thousands of times in Gran Turismo and other racing games, actually seeing glimpses of it for the first time has been, well, it's kind of awoken something in me. For the first time, it really feels like a real place. And for those of you who know your ring layout, just over my shoulder here is the gantry. The big Audi sign where we measure your bridge to gantry, that's it right there. This is the big long straight that leads to where people join up ahead. I'd only seen this in YouTube videos, and being here is just, it feels electric. It just feels stupid that I'm not going out on the track, and the next time I come here will definitely be to get some laps out there. It's been a brilliant couple of days with the car, and I can't wait to tell you more about what this car is. But for now, let's throw it back to Henry.
So that was what Drew's been up to. A couple of other things. I was away last week, week before, at the Monaco Historic Grand Prix. I was only there for a morning, but there's some amazingly cool cars. Monaco is one of those places that I've never really seen the appeal, to be honest. It just seems so crowded and built up. Well, George decided this is the right time to have a fizzy drink. But seeing it with a historic GP there and all those cars, it brought back some of the glamour that I suppose we all associate with Monaco, and it was fantastic seeing some fantastic sounding cars. And there are a few clips that hopefully you can see now and hear some of the cars going past and starting up. There's a Porsche 936 starting or warming up as well, which is a wonderful sound. Just before I went to Monaco, we were all down at Castle Combe, which is where we filmed the previous FtLoC, and there is a film up of the drag race we did between the Atom and the RS6, which was completely unscientific but quite fun, so go and check that out if you haven't seen it already. One thing about that is that I didn't say anything really in the film, but to launch an Atom is quite curious because you launch it in second gear. I wasn't quite sure if you do it with the paddle shift as well, but it's only how you do it in the manual. But I asked the chaps there and they said no, second gear is still best for the launch, and yeah, it works extraordinarily well. I should say the first run I did a practice run and obviously warmed the tyre, and it was pretty good. Went down, same revs again. Obviously I warmed the tyres up on the practice run and so bogged down, which is why I only narrowly beat the RS6 in the first run up there. A few more revs second time round, and it was a much closer launch to its sub 3 second 0 to 60 time that it can do. Finally, the other thing we've been up to is we're back in this again, loaded to the gunnels again, and spent some time at night in this down in Cornwall because we were shooting a Rolls-Royce Dawn, which was, yeah, it was quite a long few days, wasn't it?
Yes, but, so we were attempting to do astrophotography. It's,
astrophotography.
Attempting, or?
I think we succeeded.
It is just after 4:30 in the morning, and there's the dawn. Oh, there's the dawn. There's the dawn. Yeah, I don't feel too bad at the moment actually. It's been quite a long night, but yeah, really excited to see what George and Andy have got out here. And it was a bit cloudy at one point. We thought we were going to lose all the stars and it was all going to be for naught, but thankfully it came back out again, and yeah, it's been pretty amazing. We've got you can see it's the Discovery Sport behind us over there. Yeah, it's been pretty cool.
But yeah, first time I spent much time in a Rolls Royce, and I really enjoyed it. I got spotted. I drove all the way back up to Midlands in it, roof down. It was a lovely place to spend quite a lot of time, and it's unlike any other car. It's sort of you can see why people have them, because they just exude something. The driving experience is just totally different.
I quite like the orange interior as well in the end.
Yeah,
I thought it was a bit garish to start with, but
Just get a
it was
chance
quite cool.
to take your shoes off and just put your feet on the carpet.
no, I did not do that. I didn't do anything creepy like that. It does have the plushes carpet. We've mentioned that before on FtLoC, haven't we?
Really?
Yeah, we did. Glad to see you watch these, Charlie. It's going to really keep up to date with them. Everything that's going on.
Oh, there you go.
No, exactly. Well, thank you very much for watching FtLoC episode 8. Apologies for it not being as slick without Drew here. But leave any comments below, and we'll see you next time. And keep a watch out for all the various videos we've got coming up. And follow us on social media. Yes, Drew always says that, doesn't he? Carfection Films on Instagram and Facebook, and it's just at Carfection on Twitter. handles? That's right, isn't it? Yeah.
Yep.
Good. Excellent. God, this is just brilliant. Thank you very much for watching, and see you next time. Probably not from a Eurotunnel.